Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. I am, as ever, your host, Adam Bradshaw, and today we have something just a little bit different. Not too different, just a little bit. I'm not trying to scare you. We know this is a show about whiskey, but today we're looking at Malternatives. Now, Malternatives is a term, I believe, that was coined by Ralphie, a YouTube whiskey reviewer, and it was a term made up to describe something that would be appreciated by a whiskey fan that is not actually a whiskey. And we're looking at 6 of those today. It's going to be quite entertaining because I don't know very much at all about these products, and I'm going to introduce you to them a little bit, but I'm mostly going to be talking to you about them from a whiskey drinker's perspective and what you might get out of it as a whiskey fan. Of course, stretching is a good idea. Always good to warm up, always good to stretch. And today, instead of an opening dram, because we're not really doing drams, we're doing whatever you call the small amount of whatever that pile of stuff is. We'll find out. Tots, shots, pours, glasses, I don't know. But we're going to start off with something that is also oak-aged. I have asked our beer expert at Strathdale Wine and Spirit Merchants for a recommendation for a good oak-aged beer, and he gave me this. This is Driftwood's Eccentricity, which is a wheat ale? No, a wheat wine. Oh dear, a wheat wine. Is that like a barley wine? Does that mean it's... Oh, yep, it's 11.4% ABV. Dan is trying to get me drunk. Well, let's see if I can break through this wax seal and crack it open and see what this... Oh, yep, there we go. Oh, we got it. See what this one's all about. That's a... I don't know if that was wax or just a weird plastic or what, but it was a really weird feeling material, whatever that was. All right. Nice. Ooh. Well, from presentation, it certainly looks very Belgian to me. Big fan of Belgian beers. For those who don't know, I actually spent a lot of time as a teenager in Belgium, in Bruges specifically, helping nuns, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed helping nuns and then getting obscenely drunk afterwards. It was good. It smells kind of Belgian too. Jesus Christ. Yep, it's like a barley wine, but made of wheat. That is cool, actually. That is really, really neat. And this is like the opposite of a Budweiser, in that, well, it's very alcoholic. It's also so much flavor in this. It is obscenely flavorful, to be honest. Let's see if there's any more details on here. Ingredients: water, barley malt, wheat malt, rye malt, hops, and yeast. Well, that makes about sense. A quirky but oddly intriguing intersection of wheat, rye, and amberana spirals. This potent libation knows it's right and will hide them in the back of your cellar until it's good and ready. So, yeah, this is really cool. I'm not entirely sure if it is actually oak-aged. I guess I'll find out later. But regardless of whether this is oak-aged or not, it is delicious. There might have been something lost in translation there. Dan often has trouble with my accent. I might have said oak-aged and he might have heard it as okay. He might have just given me an okay local beer. Although, I don't think that's true because it tastes really, really quite good. And that's lovely. Cool label too. Yeah, this'll be a good little opener up of my palate. It's got a lot of baking spices, a lot of cloves and cardamom and things going on in that. A lot of vanilla, licorice. That's cool beer. Yeah, if you haven't tried this guy, I should definitely recommend checking it out if you're a fan of full flavored things. Ooh, I have some water after that. Blimey. Okay, so as I mentioned, today we're looking at Malternatives, and we're going to start with the original Malternative, if you will. So, whiskey wasn't actually the the premier spirit in the United Kingdom, or even just in Scotland, for the longest time. In fact, it wasn't until about the 19th century that whiskey really became the spirit of the how do you phrase this? Upper classes, I guess. The not working class. Previous to that, whiskey was exactly that. It was the working man's drink. It was the cheap and cheerful, readily available spirit. It didn't get gentrified until, like I said, the 19th century. Before the 19th century, though, what were the gentry drinking? What were the kings and the queens and the dukes and the duchesses and the prestigious landowners and business people of their time? What were they drinking if not whiskey? Well, the answer is brandy. And that confuses some people, because brandy is thought of these days as very much a French thing, but that's not actually necessarily the case. Brandy is something that's could be made of any fruit from anywhere. In fact, the West Country in England made an awful lot of apple brandies, but there is one, of course, region which is known for having some of the best brandy in the world. There's a couple of regions that have are known for having some of the best brandy in the world, and we're about to visit 3 of them. So we're going to start off with Cognac. Now, Cognac is in the central west coast of France. It's in the Bay of Biscay. I am going to butcher an awful lot of French words, by the way, in this little segment. I apologize to any French speakers. I don't even know if I've pronounced Biscay right. It could be Biscay, Biscay. I don't know. The Bay of Biscay. Anyway, that, the big bay thing on the west coast of France. Anyway, Cognac is on that big bay thing on the west coast of France, and they are known for having some of the best brandy in the world. Their style is made in copper stills, not unlike the kind of stills that are used to make single malts, but alembic shape. So there's kind of like a sort of figure 8 kind of a shape, where the top bowl of the 8 is a bit smaller than the bottom bowl. You probably get the drift. And yeah, same idea, copper stills, double distilled for the most part in these figure 8 alembic stills. But the biggest difference between brandy and whiskey, of course, is the ingredients. Whiskey is made from grain. Brandy is made from fruit. It's as simple as that. Single malt is made from 100% barley. Cognac is made from 100% grapes, majoritively a single type of grape varietal called Uni Blanc, or Uni Blanc, or Uni Blanc. I don't know French, I'm sorry. But it is known as Trebbiano in Italy, and I think I've got that one right. Trebbiano. Yeah, I'm gonna be cringing a lot watching back at this, aren't I? All the other grapes must be from a strictly controlled list of varietals that also includes Semillon and Jurançon, but it's made from a dry, acidic white wine, Cognac. So it's the same kind of process as a single malt, but just a very different starting ingredient, grapes. And it was incredibly popular in the British Isles, especially in the nobility. It's pretty much all that was drunk in Edinburgh back in the day. Although they had a lot of whiskey distilleries, it was for the working man, like I said. So we're going to start off with a cognac that I have never had before, that I had never heard of before until Megan brought it into the store. She swears it's good, and I was dubious of that based on the packaging, to be honest. But after doing some research and finding out more about it, I'm actually now really excited to try this. It has a bizarre name from someone who speaks predominantly English. It seems to be called moo cow. Like a moo cow, like a cow that moves. It's probably pronounced something much nicer than that. It's Meukaw, Mukal maybe. But the packaging is quite something. You're in for a treat if you've never seen this before. Feast your eyes on that. Isn't that something? Yeah. Cool. It's it's just a big shiny red box. So why am I excited to try this? Well, it's also known as the Panther, hence the panther's face and the spots. Oh, this box. It's glorious. Big gold panther on it. It's so gaudy. But it's actually one of the last family-owned cognac distilleries in France. Or, well, I say in France, in Cognac, because it has to be in Cognac to be Cognac. It was created in 1862, specifically to supply cognac to the Tsar of Russia. Now, that is an interesting origin story. I've never heard of a distillery that has an origin story like that. You don't hear of, oh yes, well, Auchentoshan was specifically made for the King of Spain. No, this is pretty cool historical startup there. So this is their VSOP, or their very special old pale. Actually, I should just mention the styles of cognac. That's a good point. So we have VS, very special. That means that the youngest component of the blend is 2 years old. So just like with single malts, cognacs are still blends of several casks to make a consistent product. But they're just from the same distillery, right? So this is still a blend, but it's a blend of casks from one distillery. It's not a blend in the Scottish blended whiskey term where it's blend whiskey from all over the place. So yeah, minimum 2 for VS, this VSOP, minimum of 4. The Napoleon is a minimum of 6, and then the XO, which is the extra old, is the minimum of 10, which is actually a relatively new thing. I think it was 2018 that the XO became 10. It used to be 6, and that's because Napoleon used to just be a nickname. It didn't used to be an official title, and they've made Napoleon officially 6 years old. It's an official style now, and they've made the XO bumped up to 10 to make room for Napoleon being 6. Which I think is great. Apparently they wanted to do that a little earlier, but they didn't quite have enough stocks to make enough 10-year-old cognac at the time, so everyone agreed to wait a few years. But yeah, it's really cool. So this is their VSOP, the Mukau, and their VSOP is a blend with a minimum age of 4 in this one. Minimum age of 5, sorry. The normal minimum is 4 for a VSOP, but they've gone a minimum of 5 for this one. So it's almost a Napoleon. But the average age is actually about 12, which means that there's quite a lot higher than 12 if there is some 5-year-old in this. That's a good 7-year swing between the average and the low, so you can expect a similar swing for between the average and high, which means there's probably some 19-year-old cognac in this bottle, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, let's see if there's any more information on this giant shiny red box. What does it say on the back here? The remarkable quality of Mukau VSOP Superior was awarded several times in the most prestigious competitions and tastings around the world. Its incredible roundness. That's got to be a typo. Roundness, maybe? Or, I don't know. Roudness. Roundness? If that's an actual word, I don't know it, so I may sound really dumb right now, or I'm just rightfully confused by a typo. It's the result of meticulous selection of eau de vie used in its blend. The richness and the delicacy of Mukau VSOP Superior aromas, as well as the power of its mellow tannins, are outstanding. Cool. Sure. I'm really intrigued by this, and it doesn't get any less gaudy when you open the box. This is something. It comes in a paper bag, like all good booze should. And then it's a big red shiny thing with a big cat on it. I'm so excited to open this and see what it's like. I've been looking at this on the shelf in the Strath for so long now, going, what? Why is this a thing? What is this? And yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying it. Let's crack her open and see if this is a suitable alternative for all you whiskey folk out there. Alrighty. Does have a cork, always a good sign. Oh, and a nice pop too. Very nice. Okay, we're going Glencairn here. We're going to treat it exactly as if it was a single malt whiskey. Nice. As far as I'm aware, you're not allowed to colour cognac, so I think this is all natural. Smells good. Smells very good, actually. I'm gonna Gonna have a quick one more sip of the eccentricity. Tuck this away to the side. And let's see what we've got. It's a very mild smell. It's definitely, it would be something based on the nose so far. If you're a fan of old grain whiskey, this is the same kind of a nose. It's a little bit dusty, a little bit herbal. Yeah, if I was being given this blind in a whiskey tasting and someone was cheekily disguising it as a Scotch, I would definitely say it smells like an old grain, like a 20-year-old Girvan, or maybe older. Has a strange note that almost reminds me of Play-Doh, which is weird because, again, great base. There's no dough in this at all. Ooh. Okay. Perfumey. It's a lot different on the palate than it is on the nose. On the nose, you could definitely be tricked into thinking it was a whiskey. On the palate, it's got this really like floral lavender kind of thing going on, which definitely pulls it away from whiskey thoughts. It's good though. I like it. Again, though, I do think that this is the perfect malternative. Funny, it's not really a malt if it's old grain. Is it grain-ternative? But the perfect alternative to an old grain whiskey, if you're a fan of that style. This is, yes, it's delightful. It's really good, actually. There's no rough edges on this at all. It's really smooth and soft. I can very well imagine why this style of spirit was so popular in the United Kingdom, a couple of hundred years ago, when the alternative would have been very rough around the edges, quite young whiskies. Because, yeah, this is, despite having a giant wildcat on the label, it's quite tame. It really is. I wonder if it's red because of the link to Russia, the Tsar. I don't know. I always thought that it looks like it was made for the Chinese market, because they often have these big red shiny bottles. It's funny seeing some of the single malt distilleries like Macallan and people put their whiskey in a big red shiny box for the Chinese market. But it's a lucky color. It makes sense, right? It's honestly it's good tactics. Like, know your market. I'm sure this probably would sell quite well in China. I don't know if it's available there. But yeah, it's quite something. I'm pleasantly surprised by this one, to be honest. This was a little bit of the wild card in today's tasting. This is the one I kind of wanted to open just to see if I could judge a book by its cover or not. And honestly, no, this is not as crazy and gaudy as the bottle suggests. This is actually a really, really nice, well-crafted spirit. I'm really happy with this. Yeah. No, if I was gifted a bottle of this, if I bought a bottle of this, I would not be upset in the least, which is good, actually, because I now have a bottle of this. I'm not upset. That's really nice. Yeah, I hope some of you guys get a chance to try this, because it's you often hear with cognac all of the big names, all of the big names which are naturally all escape from my head right now. Hennessy, for example. But yeah, apparently some of the more unknown little guys are well worth trying as well. This is really good stuff. Alrighty, let's get rid of the big shiny red box. I'll move this to one side. I'll hide my glass behind it, and we'll move on to the second. Now, I mentioned the first half of this tasting is all brandy because of that strong intrinsic link historically with Scotch or with whiskey in general. The link between whiskey and brandy is very strong, and just as whiskey has many different styles, as does brandy, and cognac is probably the most well-known today, but in terms of grape brandies, there's another one that actually came out just before it, one that I tend to be more of a fan of, and that is Armagnac. we're gonna try an Armagnac right here as well. So Armagnac, it can also use Uni Blanc, although it doesn't have to use, what is it, the 90% or something that Cognac has to use. And it doesn't have to use any at all, I don't think. The other grapes that it uses include Baco, Fol Blanche, and Colombard, and it's traditionally made in column stills, apparently, which is something I didn't realize. So weirdly, like the difference between grain and malt whiskies tend to be done in pot stills, grain in a column still. That's the same here with Armagnac and Cognac, and that's something I definitely didn't know, and that might be something that someone in the comment section goes, nope, that information is incorrect, because I have to be honest, I did only double check that once. I should have triple checked it, but I did find that information in 2 separate places, so we'll go with it for now. But yeah, it's a sub-region. Basse Armagnac is what I was about to say. Basse Armagnac, which is what we have here, is a sub-region of Armagnac as well. So not only do we have regions of brandies, we've got sub-regions of those regions too. Yeah, and it apparently dates back all the way back to the 14th century, which is kind of neat. So Basse Armagnac is the biggest of the Armagnac regions. It creates 57% approximately of all Armagnac. And this is the Chateau de la Barde. Again, sorry about pronunciation. Something vaguely similar to that. Chateau de Laubade, Laubade. For anyone who wants to tell me the actual pronunciation, please do. It's surprisingly hard to find official pronunciation guides on Armagnacs and Cognacs. The secret of excellence in Basse Armagnac. The, oh lord, Le Gauger family has been in the quest of excellence for 3 generations at Chateau de la Barde. Founded in 1870, this is the premier Armagnac single estate property with 255 acres of vines. Chateau de la Barde faces the Pyrenees at the heart of the Basse Armagnac terroir, the noblest area of the appellation. Each blend offers a unique style, combining elegance, richness, and aromatic complexity, making you share a rare emotion. Neat. It won a gold at the World Spirits Awards in 2018, so save the sticker. Yeah, looking forward to trying this one. I've had a few Armagnacs in my time, and I've really liked pretty much all of them. So trying this one is going to be really cool, because this is a single estate Armagnac. All of the grapes that are that go into making this Armagnac were grown on their 255-acre estate, which is really cool. Not only that, they're also the only distillery in the entire Armagnac region to have their own cooperage, and everything they make is actually aged in hand-coopered Gascony oak, local French oak, which is coopered in-house, and that's really, really cool. It feels like it's the Springbank of the Armagnac scene, or maybe even more so. I don't know if the Springbank cooper their own barrels. I'm not even sure they do. They don't even grow most of their own grain. It's more of the Kilchoman, I guess, of the... It's very cool is what it is. It's that farm to glass kind of thing in a spirit, which is pretty hard to do with spirits. And let's see how this one goes. I haven't even taken one of these out of the box yet. I don't even know what the bottle looks like. It looks very handsome. Very handsome indeed. Yeah, it's very nice. Any more information? Yes, there is more information, specifically on the VSOP. I guess they must use the same box information for the different types of blends. This is the VSOP, so again, that's sort of 4-year minimum. This blend comes exclusively from the property's grapes, Baco, Fol Blanche, Uni Blanc, and Colombard, harvested and vinified separately. That's another interesting thing I read about these guys. So they're actually their distillation and blending is much more like Canadian whiskey, where they will distill in Canada. They distill all of the grains separately and then blend them after they've been matured. Right? It's not like in In the States, they do what's called a mash bill, and they throw all of the ingredients into one mash, and they mash them together, distill them together, and obviously then mature them together. In Canada here, we distill them separately, we mash them separately, distill them separately, mature them separately, and then blend them at the end. It's a different process, and that's what they're doing here as well. So each of those 4 grape varietals is distilled separately and then blended later. Cool. After a perfectly controlled distillation, the eau de vie are matured much longer than the standards of the appellation, grape by grape and vintage by vintage, in our own coopered casks made of Gascony oak until their blending and bottling on. And that's cool. Stamped with the blending and bottling date. So it was blended and bottled on the same date, which is Jules, I'm guessing that's July 2018. Then it doesn't actually give you a date. It just said July of 2018. And then it's signed by the owner, JJ Legauge. JJ. Signed by JJ. Yeah. It's really neat. 40%. Again, I should have mentioned the Mucao is 40%. I'm pretty sure almost every Cognac and Armagnac is presented at 40% exactly. It seems to be the standard. And there's a lot of flavor going on, so I mean, who am I to complain? I don't really know anything about this style of spirit, so I'm not going to start complaining about it being 40%, because that's probably exactly the norm for this style. From a whiskey perspective, I generally like a little more, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is a Malternative. This isn't whiskey. That being said, if you do want to try Armagnac and Cognac at cask strength, the Scotch Malt Whisky Society has bottled some absolute stunners. All right, let's crack this guy open. I just realised I haven't mentioned the price at all of any of these. So the price of the Mucao, which is, as I said, very, very approachable and would definitely suit the palate of someone who likes older grain whiskies, is much cheaper than most older grain whiskies. So this one at the moment is $100.78 on the website, and for the next little while we're going to give you guys 10% off of everything I'm presenting today as well. So take about $10 off of that. So around $90, which is pretty damn good. Let's try this Armagnac. And this Armagnac is actually even less. This is $76.43 before the discount, so it's going to be less than $70, I think, after that 10% off. Little lighter in colour. I don't know if that's standard between Armagnac and Cognac. I haven't done many Armagnac Cognac side by sides, but definitely slightly lighter in colour, but a nice, lovely golden hue. Again, this is all coming from the wood, assuming it's natural. It's got to all come from the wood, because anything coming off the still is pure clear, right? It's just completely clear spirit. So this is the great mystery to me now, after finding out that this is most likely done in a column still. That completely is backwards in my head to how I would expect it to be based on the flavors in cognacs and armagnacs, because to me an armagnac is always more rustic and full flavored than a cognac. A cognac is more like a grain whiskey or more like a triple distilled Irish whiskey, and an armagnac has always felt much more like a single malt, and that is apparently backwards in terms of what still they use. So the column still is able to produce a really big, rich feeling spirit out of the grapes. Oh, that's dry. It's biscuity almost, which is bizarre because again, no grain. Not as sweet as the cognac. Definitely a little drier, not a little bit more, a little bit spicier rather than herbal. It's more cinnamon and clove. That's nice. It's yeah. Honestly, I was looking forward to this one a lot more than I was looking forward to the Mucao, just because I've historically liked Armagnacs. But I have to say, I prefer the cognac in this occasion, which is a shocker to me. Yeah, on this occasion there is a lot more flavour happening in this Crazy Panther cognac than there is in this Chateau de Bard Armagnac. But it is still nice. It's just different. It's not as full feeling. Interestingly, after just saying how I found that most Armagnacs are more full feeling than cognacs, this is apparently this pair is an exception, because this one feels more full than most cognacs, and this one feels a little thinner than most Armagnacs that I've had, which is interesting. By no means does it feel thin, just thinner than I was expecting. Yeah, nutmeg, honey. Still on the lighter side. I would recommend this to someone who's generally a fan of maybe something like Tomentoul, or those really sort of gentle Speysides. Yeah, it's very pleasant, and definitely the same ball game as a whiskey. As a whiskey fan, this is something that you would definitely be drawn to, I think. Nice. So why is it then that different parts of Europe, different parts of the world, use different ingredients for making their alcohol? Like, why did France become known as the place to get your brandies, and the UK the place to get your whiskies? Well, I mean, mostly for that, it comes down to what those whiskies and brandies are made of, and they're made of beer and wine, and France makes very good wine and grows a hell of a lot of grapes, and the UK makes really good beer and grows a hell of a lot of barley, and that's really how it came about, because they were making wine and beer long before distillation came around. They rolled up these stills to the countries and said, throw some alcohol in here and make it more alcoholic. So they said, all right, well, this is the alcohol we have, so we'll make it more alcoholic. And in France, that was wine, and in England, that was beer. Well, in some parts of England, that was cider, and that's also true for France. So as I mentioned, 3 brandies. The third brandy is not a grape-based brandy. We're now going to Normandy, which is actually just across the water from the part of England where they used to make apple brandy as well. And this is an apple brandy, which is an appellation. It has its own regional name, which is protected throughout most of the world. And this is a region called Calvados. That is what we're having next. So this is, again, gonna butcher this, Pere Magloire. Calvados. It is a fine VS Calvados, so I think that means that the minimum age is 2. And I'm looking forward to trying this, because this is single distillation, which means it's almost definitely in a column still. I couldn't find out much more than that, but it's almost definitely in a column still, because you can't really get away with single distillation in a pot still. It doesn't really work. It doesn't get high enough. But yeah, single distillation apple brandy, which is really cool. It's got some information on the back here. Since 1821, Pere Magloire has been keeping alive the tradition of Calvados, one of the oldest of all French brandies and protected by an AOC, Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée. Its intense apple flavors have brought it worldwide renown. Fine VS, created using several vintages, is the freshest, quite different, the freshest and fruitiest of the collection. What sets Fine VS apart is the continuous distillation in copper stills. This concentrates the apple flavor, which is further accentuated by blending the fruitiest vintages and aging them in century-old barrels. So I'm expecting this to actually retain quite a lot of that apple flavor from the write-up. I'm really, really excited to try it. It's been a very long time since I've had a Calvados, and I'm not certain that I've ever had Calvados on its own. I think I've only ever had it in cocktails, so this is going to be quite a treat for me. Cider has actually been made in Normandy since at least the 8th century. It was actually mentioned by Charles I, Charlemagne. And interestingly, from a Canadian perspective as well, Calvados is the regimental drink of the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada. And that came about after it was gifted to them by some locals after D-Day. And these days it's drunk in between courses at regimental dinners as a toast to the fallen, which is a cool Canadian link there as well. So I'm going to try this guy. This is the least expensive of the brandies we've got here today. This is regular priced at $57.30, so just over $50 after your 10% off discount, which will go live today. And yeah, I'm intrigued. Very, very intrigued. Ooh, that's a nice high-pitched little pop there. And it smells like apples. Holy crud. My God, that smells like apple juice. All right. Not expecting the apple flavor to be quite that prominent, but here we go. Let's move on over. So, instantly on the nose, I mean, being that it's really fresh and appley, it does draw me again to that Space ID kind of style, but this actually, more so because of the abundance of fruit, makes me think that fans of whiskies that were matured in specialty wine casks, like Sauternes wine casks maybe, would find this one very alluring. The biggest thing, though, whether or not you're coming at this from a whiskey side or not, you're probably not going to like this if you don't like apples. Wow. Wow. It tastes less like a spirit and more like a fortified cider. You know, in that same sense of, you know, you get your fortified wines, your sherries. It tastes like it was actually, they've actually made a really high proof spirit and then added it to some really good cider. I am amazed at how much flavor has come through on the spirit from the original ingredients there. That's really unique. I've honestly never come across anything showing quite that strongly through distillation. I've had, you know, vodkas made of strawberries. I've had whiskeys made of oats. I've had all kinds of spirits made from different base materials. You know, we've got Unruly making things from honey on here. I've never had anything where you can taste that base material as much as you can taste these apples. That is very unique. So interestingly, this company, which was established in 1821, it was once upon a time, and possibly still today, I'm not sure, the number one selling Calvados in France. It was actually owned by the Champagne House of Veuve Clicquot between 1968 and 1998, where it was actually, you don't see this very often. Normally, you hear all the stories about a small family-owned business, which is then taken over by a large conglomerate or larger business. This was the way around. Veuve Clicquot somehow, for some reason, decided to sell it to a small family business that started in Normandy. So it went from being a larger part of a larger company back to being a small family-owned business again, which is really cool. Yeah, that's really, really neat. This one, definitely less of a taste connection to whiskey as the other two, but if you like apples, you should definitely try this. You should definitely try this spirit. This Calvados is very cool, very, very unique. Yeah. Not sure what I was expecting there, but it certainly wasn't that. Okay, well, I'm going to shift over this way because I'm going to be making more room for more bottles here. And we are finally leaving France. We're going quite far away from France, actually. So we've had a couple of, I've had three different things here which are all very regional. I'm going to have some beer. We've had three different things here that are all very regional. And the products are named after the region that they're made in. And we're going to go even even more narrow than that with this one. This is a product which is not just named after the region, but named after a specific town. And this is a product from a very different part of the world. We're going to try some tequila. Yes, we are. We're going to try Hornitos Black Barrel. So tequila is from the state of Jalisco in Mexico, is a fermented agave spirit. Now, fermented agave is actually something that's been drunk by the pre-Columbian Mexican population for thousands of years. And yeah, I mean, of course, when the Spanish arrived, they brought distillation with them. And so in the 1600s, they started distilling that agave drink, the fermented agave. And now we have tequila, which was originally called tequila extract. It doesn't sound as good. Would you like a shot of tequila extract? Yeah, good, thanks. So this is Hornitos. This is Black Barrel. And this is a particularly special Hornitos for whiskey fans because this is Hornitos that has been double-aged in whiskey barrels. This is añejo, so it's an older version of tequila, aged for 18 months in this one, which is quite a long time. It sounds like nothing from a whiskey perspective, but for tequila, that's a lot of age. Because of the hot climate, I guess, it ages very rapidly. But also, you want to keep a certain amount of the spirit flavor in there, because the spirit flavor is very unique, and I personally really, really enjoy the spirit flavor of tequilas. I like blancos. I like white tequilas. I wouldn't say that I actively enjoy white whiskey. Like it's nerdy and it's interesting, and there've been a few that I've really, really honestly liked. But in general, I wouldn't say I enjoy them. Blanco tequilas, absolutely, they're delicious. So yeah, you want to keep that spirit flavor through the aging process. So 18 months is about as long as you want to go. I don't know. I mean, there's extra añejo, which is, I think, up to around 2 years, but you don't really want it much longer than that. So yeah, really interesting spirit here. And this one, so it's double aged in whiskey barrels, and the whiskey is probably from Jim Beam Distillery, because it's actually now owned by Beam Suntory, which is really cool. Now owned by Beam Suntory, it was started, so the company is called Sauza. Hornitos is just the brand. And Sauza started in 1873 when Don Zenobio Sauza built the... Okay, come on, Adam, you can pronounce this. La Perseverancia. Like perseverance, I guess. La Perseverancia Distillery. And it was actually this guy, Don Zenobio, who actually dropped the term extract and called it just tequila. And he was the first person to ever export tequila to the US. So he's responsible for tequila breaking out of Mexico, which is, you know, pretty important in the history of tequila. And it's apparently also responsible much further down the line for me not being able to open this bloody bottle because the plastic's a little too tight. See if I can get it from the bottom. I need some kind of opening tool for these. There we go. A knife, maybe. If I was in my kitchen, still, I would still have a knife. But being that I'm now in the official Strath studio here at the Strathcona Hotel, I don't have a knife with me right now. But I've managed to get in anyway. And I already have a bottle of this at home. I'm very familiar with this tequila. I really quite like it. It's my... It feels a little like a guilty pleasure coming from a whiskey sense that I have started drinking tequilas, but this is a bit of a guilty pleasure because it's only $43. This is $43.13 plus you get the 10% off, so it's less than $40 right now for you guys. And I know that it has a good pop usually. Whoop. Ooh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I love this. Love this stuff. So why do I like it? Well, I like it because a lot of that whiskey flavor comes through in the cask, which is neat. But I also like it because it doesn't lose any of that quintessential pepperiness that you get in a tequila. Oh, it is every bit of tequila, but also a little bit whiskey. Fresh, cracked black pepper. I just feel like I'm in an Italian restaurant. You know when they got those giant pepper grinders with it, like, it looks like an old part of an old staircase, like a giant banister. There's like this big and they're cracking it. Oh, yeah, black pepper and oak. It's just... The nose is just so interesting and unique. If you're a fan of whiskies that have an interesting, unique flavor, like Springbank with that funkiness, then this might be something that you'd also really enjoy. It's also probably the kind of thing that people who are into peat would enjoy. Big, earthy flavors coming up underneath those peppery notes as well. Yeah. Black pepper, honey, oak, a little bit of coal dust. But there are some lighter flavors in there too. It's got a little bit of a citricity going on. It's a little bit lime juice, I would say. Maybe more towards grapefruit. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't have much to say about this tequila other than if you've never tried it, give it a go. I mean, I know it's a big name. I know Hornitos is, one of those cheapo big names that you see everywhere. But if you're wanting to see if tequila might be something you want to get more into, and you don't want to start spending $100 on a bottle of tequila like I just recently did twice in one day, then this is your gateway tequila from a whiskey fan. This is what I would recommend you get, because it's $40. Worst comes to worst and you don't like it, you throw it in some cocktails and everyone's still happy. But if you think you might really enjoy going down that road and seeing if tequila is something you might get into, then I would definitely recommend getting one of these just purely out of intrigue. So yeah, big link to whiskey here. So the link to whiskey here was basically historical and the fact that they share a lot in common with how they're made. The link to whiskey here is the fact that it's a whiskey cask. The link to whiskey in the next one is really interesting. A little bit tenuous, but it's one that I've been wanting to try for quite a while because I'm a big fan of the regular edition. And although this is very, very different to the regular edition, if it's the same kind of quality, then happy days. I'm going to take some more beer. This wheat wine is devilishly Moorish. Again, I am drinking the Eccentricity wheat wine from Driftwood. Really good. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about another style of spirit, which has a really interesting history. It started in the Caribbean, and it was started by 17th century plantation slaves. And although that's not a great place to start, at least it was something that the slaves managed to do that actually brought them a little bit of joy, and that then they themselves, after being freed, managed to make a lot of money from. So although, yes, I know slavery is historically and in the modern day, there's a lot of slavery still happening, an absolutely appalling thing, and I actually may as well, while I'm out there, throw out Black Lives Matter in case it wasn't obvious. Yeah, we at least have something that those slaves made for themselves and then helped get them out of slavery. So this is not a celebration of slavery in any way, but a celebration of the freedom of those former slaves, and that is rum. Rum is a fantastic spirit. We're going to try some bumbu. So those slaves at the plantation discovered that a byproduct of sugar refining called molasses could be fermented, which was fantastic news. And they think that the first evidence of rum was actually from Barbados. In 1651, they were reportedly making something called rum bouillon, which was also known as kill devil, and it was described as a hot, hellish liquor. Hellish enough to kill the devil himself. Cool. Like that's neat. This is hopefully not hellish. This is hopefully something unique and interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it. So this is bumbu. Bumbu's, like I said, the original version of bumbu is very different to this. The original bumbu is actually homage to the early Barbadian rums, which is made with local spice. So it's quite a sweet. It tastes like banana bread. It's really, really delicious if you want something sweet. This is, however, very different. It's actually made from a different distillery. They sourced this rum from an unnamed Panamanian distillery, and it's apparently 18 years old, although it doesn't say in the bottle. Their website states that it's 18 years old. And the thing that really, really interests me is that it was actually 18 years in its previous cask and then finished in sherry casks, much like many, many whiskies are today. So they've taken something that is very popular in whiskey and transposed that onto a rum, which I'm really, really interested to try. And again, I haven't got a clue how to get into this. Oh, there's perforation. It's okay. We're saved by perforation. Oh, God. There might be a montage of 5 minutes of me trying to open this. Oh, no, I've got it. There we go. There we go. Oh, and it broke. This is entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. I've got it. I've got it. Do I have it? Yeah! I've got most of it. We're on the home stretch. Alright, that was a good 30 seconds of me fighting against some plastic. Alright, well I can't seem to get it off of the actual cork. It's stuck on the cork, but never mind. I can still open the cork, and that's the important part. Oh, yes. Okay. We're in. Oh my God. Look at that colour. Holy crap. That is dark. That is very, very dark. I've made a right pig's ear of this. I'm not sure how to get the plastic off. Anyway, I'll just put the lid over there and I'll put the bottle over here. Oh, that is alluring. That is so alluring. That is deep, dark fruits with cloves and cinnamon. It has that sort of, not, semi-sweetness of a good aged rum. Smells very, very vanilla laden. And this is why it's important to experiment, because that is very, very good. I have had a couple of rums that had spent some time in sherry before. I had one with the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. I think it was called Make You Strong Like Lion. It was about 75% alcohol, and it was kind of hard to drink at 75% alcohol. It was very nice once you watered it down a lot, but that was potent. But no, this is a really good mix of those flavors. That's very nice. Well aged rum with that nice twist of the dark fruits coming in from the sherry cask. Very cool. Actually, if you're a fan of deeper, richer, darker whiskies, like a Mortlach maybe, if you're a fan of Mortlach, then this would be the right kind of Malternative for you, I think. That's really nice. Yeah. Yeah, I am not disappointed by this at all. Yeah, that is excellent. It's especially excellent because it's only $67.74, which means that with the 10% discount that we're going to be offering right now, it is actually going to be just over $60 for a bottle of what is claimed to be 18-year-old Panamanian rum finished in a sherry cask. It is delightful, and I am slightly afraid because I think we only have 2 bottles left right now. I'm going to get Megan to hopefully order some more. I do it myself, but I'm not allowed to. I'm only in charge of whiskies in the store. All of the spirits goes through our manager, Megan, so I will ask her to bring in more because this is very good. Oh, man. That is absolutely excellent, actually. Yeah, despite owning this one, despite being shocked by this one, and really shocked by this one, this might be my favorite of the lineup so far. Price-wise, it definitely is. It's a toss-up between the Cognac and the rum right now. That Cognac is very good. Actually, I'm going to do a side-by-side right now, because why not? Oh, that's interesting. So what's really interesting going back to the Cognac after trying the rum, the Cognac actually tastes slightly sweeter, which is unexpected as this is made from sugarcane. That is a very, very good Cognac, though. All right, so time to move on to the final spirit. And this is an interesting spirit because, unlike all of the others, this has nothing really to do with the base ingredient. Like, rum was made because they had access to sugarcane. Tequila was made because they were already fermenting the agave, and these were made because they already had wine. This next one is a style of spirit which it doesn't actually matter what the base distillation is of. But it still has an awful lot of terroir. It still has an awful lot of individuality based on where it's made and what it's made from. And that is, you've probably guessed by now, gin. So we're going to have an Old Tom gin. An Old Tom, which is a style from 18th century England that was quite popular back then. It's quite the opposite to a London Dry. The idea is that it's slightly sweetened, and it's usually barrel-aged as well. That's kind of I don't know if there's actually specific rules about what you have to do to be able to call something Old Tom. But yeah, that's the basic style. And these days, of course, Old Tom can be made anywhere. And if something can be made anywhere, why not make it in Wheeling, Illinois? And that's exactly what we've got here. This is an Old Tom gin from a distillery which I absolutely love. And I actually decided last week, someone asked me the question of, Adam, what's your favorite bourbon distillery? And no offense to like all of the amazing, ones that have been going for decades, it's Opadan. The stuff coming out of Wheeling, Illinois is absolutely stunning. I love their Smoke and Sea. I love their original Solera vatting. I love the crazy rye one that they did. And I love their Old Tom gin. So this is the Barrel Reserve Opadan Old Tom. It's something that I'm, again, quite familiar with. It's bottled at 45%, which I think makes it probably the most alcoholic. I don't actually know. I didn't even look at the ABV of the Bumbu. It is 40. So yeah, everything else, literally everything else today has been 40%, apart from the beer, of course, which is like 11 something, which is still very strong for a beer. This is then the most alcoholic thing, the highest ABV here today. It's made of 100% grain neutral spirits, distilled at Opadan Spirits, Wheeling, Illinois. And I think from memory, I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that they say 100% grain neutral spirits, but what they actually do is it's their bourbon mash that is then distilled a little more. So it's essentially bourbon, but botanicalized and made into an Old Tom gin, which is really neat, and I dig it. I really do. I also dig that they made a lid that I can get open really easily without having to get power tools out. Alrighty. It's a satisfying cork thing, but it's then less satisfying when you realise it's a fake cork, ladies and gentlemen. We've got rubber. Alright. I won't give them too much grief about that, because they're making a damn good gin. So yes, this is the Opadan. Yeah, and the thing with gin is it can be anything. Like, you can throw pretty much any botanical in there. The one thing that it has to be, though, by definition, gin has to be Geneva. And speaking Dutch all of a sudden, juniper. Yeah, it's got to be juniper driven. So you can put whatever other spirits, other herbs and spices and other flavorings in there, but juniper's got to be the thing that is like biggest percentage wise of the blend. And there's all kinds of things you can add now. All kinds of crazy black tea. I keep telling Leon that we should try doing a coffee one because there's all these tea ones going around. I'm not sure if that would actually work or not. But yeah, you can pretty much throw anything in a gin these days. Seaweed. Again, Leon. I wonder if Leon's tried this Opedan. Leon, let us know if you've tried the Opedan gin. It's if you haven't, you should. It's good. All right. What else did it say on the bottle? Experiment 1. All right. Opedan Barrel Reserve Gin. Pecan wood smoked grapefruit peel. See, I told you could throw anything into a gin. Why not throw pecan wood smoked grapefruit peel? Why not? Hibiscus, cinnamon, and elderflower is the key non-juniper sort of botanicals going into this gin. And it's good. It's really good. This is a gin which doesn't need tonic, it doesn't need soda, it just needs a glass and a pair of hands, or even just one hand. You don't need a pair. Even, a claw or some kind of levy device, some way of getting it from the glass to your mouth. That's all this needs. You don't need ice, you don't need tonic. You just need to drink the bloody thing. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, grapefruit peel is really prominent in this. I wouldn't generally guess it was pecan wood smoked, but there is kind of a dirty smoky thing going on there, and it is kind of sweet, so, post-rationalizing. Yeah, sure. Big herbal, citrus, really nice, thick mouthfeel to the spirit. Yeah. If you're a fan of gins and you're a fan of whiskies, and you may as well be a fan of gin whiskey hybrids like this, because this is delightful. It really is. Big fan. All right, so these are your Malternatives for the evening. I never mentioned what kind of whiskies you might like that would send you towards this one. To be honest, this one you're only going to like if you already like gins. And you've probably tried a gin, because who hasn't tried gin? That would be weird. But yeah, I mean, if you like gin and you like whiskey, try this. It's $75 pretty much before... it's $74.70 before the discount, so it's going to be under $70 after your 10% off, which is really, really quite good for this small batch, experimental, unique thing from Wheeling, Illinois, of all places. So yeah, these are our Malternatives. I hope that you've enjoyed my experience of discovering them. Yeah, I mean, I'd only ever had these two before, and I'm a fan of both of them, which is why I threw them in here, and they've got that link to whiskey. I was, again, blown away by the Bumbu. If you're a fan, I think I said, of things like Springbank, anything with that sort of funky... No, hang on, sorry, that's this one. If you're a fan of Mortlock, and you like those really big, rich flavors, then this Bumbu is for you. If you're a fan of those really unique, quirky flavors like you get in Springbank, then I recommend trying this. Or just if you think that tequilas and mezcals might be something you want to experiment with, this is a great way of getting into them. If you like apples, then try the Calvados, because it just tastes like apples. Yeah. If you're a fan of something soft like the Gentle Drown, the Tomintoul, or something along those lines, then the Armagnac, this specific Armagnac, is for you, although I wouldn't say that the other ones I've had necessarily are. And yeah, this, if you're a fan of old grain whiskey, this, still from the glass, I could be tricked into thinking that this is an old grain whiskey. And as a fan of old grain whiskey myself, I'm all right with that. So this has been a very interesting experiment. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back to whiskey in the next tasting, I promise, and I'm not entirely sure what that tasting is at time of recording. I don't know. It might be the outturn. There might be something in between now and the outturn. I haven't checked my calendar, but I'll get on that shortly. And as always, if you want to keep On top of all the whiskey news here in Victoria, make sure to keep an eye on your inbox for those Dram Association emails. We're letting you know everything that's going on with Drinking Out Loud, as well as other things that are happening in the store. Yeah, exciting times ahead. It's going to be a good summer to be a whiskey fan. We've got some fun things coming up. Actually, I should tell you about one fun thing coming up. We do have another Blackadder Snake Pit coming. We're going digital for the Blackadder Snake Pit, and some of the whiskies have already arrived in store now. I'm really, really looking forward to them. It's going to be awesome. It's also it's a little bittersweet because this is a lineup of whiskies that I personally worked on with Jay Wheelock before he passed away. So this is his legacy, in a sense, to as whiskey fans here in Victoria, is these Blackadder offerings. So please do join in with me on that coming up soon. And yeah, I think I'm going to toast you tonight with the Eccentricity, which I'm still enjoying, and I'm now halfway through the bottle, which it's a good job I'm walking home. Sláinte, stay well. I'll see you next time.
Here's to whiskey kisses, the peachy taste of scent.